Hey guys, welcome back. I've got all of the squares squared up, and then I had to put some borders on some of them so that they would all fit properly. And this is the layout that we're going to be going with. So just wanted to give you a quick peek at what I had done, and we're going to take these over and just like a big 9-patch, we're going to sew them together. Now, I had misspoke a few minutes ago. We're not going to put this together like a 9-patch because I'm going to sew a sashing in. So we're going to go ahead and this is the top row, so I have to put a sashing at the top and then one here that's going to connect to the next row. Okay, so we've got our first row sewn together with the sashing. So I'm going to grab the other row. You can actually do maybe, depending on the size of your table, 2 or 3 more in one long row to make a really nice table runner. Okay, you can see we've got the second row on. I just need to add another sash, but we're looking good so far. Okay, I'm going to go get the last sashing and row, and I will be right back. Now, if you're more comfortable, you can, of course, pin these before you start sewing the row. This is so small, it doesn't bother me to just do it like this. Alright, so now all I need to do is get borders for the sides. Okay, so it's coming together. We just have to put the sashing or the border actually on the other side. Okay, so I am going to go press this, and then the next step will be to sandwich the quilt, the batting, and the backing. So what I'll need to do is, after I get it pressed, I'm going to measure it and make sure that I don't need to trim down any of the 4 borders. They need to stay around 33 wide, 35 possibly, but 33 seemed to be a good number, and then about 40 in length. So I just want to make sure that I haven't exceeded any of that. Okay, so right now we are 35 inches wide, almost 35 inches wide, and about an eighth of being 40 inches long. So it's a pretty good size. I'm not going to have to adjust anything. I'm going to go ahead and look through my scraps and see if I can find some backing that same size. I've already found some pale blue strips that I'll be able to use for the binding. Okay, so you can see here at the end, I have got a layer at the bottom that's going to be the backing, and then I've got the layer of batting, and then I've got the top. I'm just going to smooth that out, and I have a ton of these quilter's pins, and I'm going to start pinning this before we quilt it. I put a lot of pins in to keep it steady. And I tend to pin from the middle. So I'm going to make a row. That way as I'm pressing, it's pushing out. You don't want to start at the edges and be pushing, and you may have a big spot in the middle that's not laying flat. And I look at quilting it the same way. I start in the middle. Not going to make you guys watch me put a bunch of safety pins in. I'll see you back when we're ready to quilt. Okay, so we have everything pinned and we're going to be ready to quilt. Okay guys, so now we're at the quilting stage, and I've got a lot of the squares done. Out of the 9, I've got 8 done, and I decided if I was hand quilting, you know, I probably would have gone inside and quilted each little triangle and things like that. Well, on this one, on these first 3 at the top or bottom, whichever way you're holding it, I decided on the ends I was going to just quilt across. And then the middle one, I quilted squares. And then on this, actually the bottom row down here, I did the opposite of that. So I did squares on the ends and across. Now in the middle, I am quilting the opposite way. In the whole row, I'm quilting down straight lines. And so I am on this one, ready to go now. So I'm just going to fold this up so I can get it under my needle. Now once I get it under here, oops, I folded that a little too much. Let me pull it through. Okay, then we can fold it and roll it to make it a little more comfortable. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew down the edge of this square right over here, and then I will come over, go down this one, and that way. I would split them, but then it's going to be such tighter quilting than everywhere else that I'm not going to do that. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seams coming straight down. Once I get this completed, then we'll be able to move to sewing down the borders. Oh, and just an FYI, I am using my walking foot. If you got a sewing machine, you probably got a little pouch or a box that's full of all these different feet. this is the one that has like a little lever or lever, whatever you want to call it, attached over here. And there will be instructions telling you how to attach it on here, so that as you're sewing, you know, you have the bottom feed dogs that are pulling your material through, right? Well, with this walking foot, it also has little grippers that are going to help the top push it through as well, so you're not going to get as much bunching or you know, stretched fabric when you're trying to sew. So that's what I'm using, is the walking foot. And go ahead and put this down, and we are ready to go. Alright, so my first line is done. I'm just going to pull it back and move right over here. And I just use my hands to gently guide it to keep it straight. Some people wear gloves. I was never comfortable in them. I just prefer to do it with my hands. But by all means, you can buy gloves. And they kind of have this silicone or coating on the palm, so that, you know, your hand's not sliding across your material. It's keeping it gripped and firm as you're guiding it. I don't find that I need that. Now I'm just going to turn it around and come in over to the edge right here to make a seam on my border. And I'm not going to stitch in the ditch. Stitching in the ditch is where you go right there on that seam. I actually want the stitching to show on the blue, just like I did right here where you can see the stitching. Okay guys, so as you can see, I trimmed up my edges and then I folded them over, and that's going to be my binding instead of adding another piece of material, so the back of it is just smooth. You don't see a different color around the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and finish closing it up. One thing I do want to speak to about folding over your edges to keep it smooth back there is you're going to want to lay it on a flat surface when you do your trimming, and just pin it just every few inches, and be very aware when you're folding it over that it is going on flat. So thanks guys for coming along while I made all of the squares and eventually turned it into a wheelchair quilt. Now just remember, on sampler quilts, it's okay if you have duplicates. So even if you made 2 or 3 of each square and then put it together to make a larger quilt, that's okay to do that. Or if you did want to stop with these and then just where I put a blue border around it, you could add 2 or 3 borders to make it a little bit larger if you wanted to go for a throw but didn't want more blocks. There's always ways, you know, that you can enlarge it. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you back next week on regular schedule.